Welcome into our next webinar. This is AI prompting, where better input will equal better output. Thank you so much. Christine Qualman and Adam Larson are going to be presenting today. And as a reminder, this recording will also be on our ESU3 YouTube channel. So I'm going to pass it over to Christine and Adam.
Thanks, Eileen.
Thanks, Eileen. So we're going to be talking about AI prompting and better input equals better output. You'll notice a theme in our slides. We love a good theme, and so we're really going to stick pretty hard to that as we talk through these.
Yeah.
So looking at our outcomes, here are the things that we want you to be able to do after attending this session, watching this video. These are all things around how you can work closely with AI to get what you want out of it. And really, you're going to hear us talking about how to set yourself up for success so that what you put into AI gives you what you are expecting out of it. We're going to start with a very basic recipe. So our very basic recipe is output, audience, and format. Thinking about those three things will help you be able to not only get what you want out of it, but mean that you have to do less cleanup in what you are working on. So when we talk about output, we're talking about the specific content that you need. What are the things that you are going to be looking for? So our example here, maybe a comparison chart with examples. Maybe you want to analyze a survey and create a pivot table with the results from that survey. Audience, who is going to be using this? So you have an audience in mind when you are sitting down to make something before AI. When you were going to make a slide deck, you knew who your audience was going to be. You need to share that knowledge with AI so that it also knows what your audience is. If you're talking with an audience that is very informed on a topic, maybe you're working with content area specialist teachers, right? I'm working with a bunch of reading teachers who know reading as a content area. I need to let AI know that so that the things it gives me isn't the very basic level things that my content area experts would already know. If I'm working with people who are new to a topic, maybe I'm going to teach coding to a bunch of fourth graders who never have done coding before. As I put my audience into my prompts, I need to include that these kids don't have any access to coding, or I'm not going to walk in assuming that they do. That helps AI give you the response that you're looking for. And then format. How do we want this to be structured? Maybe you want a presentation ready table. Maybe you're looking for major themes. So I'm going to give it this big long report and I'm looking for specific themes that I want it to pull out. So what is that format that we're going to be looking for?
So if you look at the right-hand side of that slide, this is what the actual prompt might look like for that kind of task. Go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
No, absolutely fine. So a little more in depth on this. If that last slide was our kind of beginning recipe, then this is the master chef's checklist. So again, going back one, this is our basic recipe. We're gonna level this up. Now we're moving on from just the very basics and we're getting a little more detailed in what we're putting in. So here we've given you create as our word that we're looking at. The C is for context, R for request, E for examples, A adjustments, T type, and E extras. Again, these are all things that the more work that you do on the front end of your prompting means less work in cleaning up and re-prompting to get what you want out. So if I set my AI up with all of this information, and I really do spend some time thinking about all of these things, what I get out, I'm going to have to spend less time kind of tweaking and messing with. So, context. We need to define the chef, act as an HR director. You are a content area specialist. You are a professional at this. You're telling it exactly who you need the AI to be in that moment. Request, what's the dish? Be specific and very clear in what you want. I want to draft a policy update on this topic. Examples, provide tasting notes. Again, we love a theme here. So give a sample of your style, or maybe something else that you wrote that you feel like has the right tone to it, how you want what you want to come out, how you want it to sound. And then adjustments. As you get what you're looking for, you can say, this is too technical, or be supportive but professional. So you're really giving it how you want it to respond. For type, we have, hey, I need a 3-bullet summary. I'm going to be very specific. I need a table. I need a graphic. and then you tell it exactly what you want. And then extra, any dietary restrictions. We know everyone has a couple things they're dealing with. So I need this content aligned with Nebraska state standards. I need this to be compliant with ADA requirements. You can really put in exactly what you're looking for. Again, those are things that, as I've gotten better at prompting, before I really started to work on these and think about these things, those are things I would always do after the prompt. I would say, all right, so now add in these things. Front loading this information has meant less work on the back end of those things. And that's really helped kind of boost my productivity when using AI. So, from raw notes to refined results. So here is our task. We've got a follow-up after a leadership meeting where we've summarizing 2 attachments, a budget draft and a project timeline, and we're assigning action items. So my context, I need you to act as an ESU3 professional project coordinator. Request, I need you to draft up a follow-up email to the MTSS leadership team based on my attached meeting notes. Example, use the tone attached in the ESU3 memo style guide. My adjustments, the tone should be supportive, clear, and urgent regarding the deadline. Type, I need a structure with a brief summary of the budget and the timeline attachments, followed by a required actions table, and then extras. Ensure the next step section significantly highlight tasks for the district administrators. All of that is one prompt. So that's me checking every single one of those boxes as I go down to ensure that all of this goes together, and what comes out of the oven is the meal that I really had envisioned. So I went in knowing exactly, I knew exactly what I wanted and needed. And I was very clear in my instructions about how I wanted it not only to kind of frame what we're doing, but I need you to highlight that there's a deadline for these things. I need you to give me a summary with budget and timeline and bullet points. So all of those things come together to give me exactly what I'm looking for out of this.
And this seems like so much work, but really it is being a truly intentional chef. It is making sure that we are staying human-centered, because AI is meant to be a tool. It's not an oracle. And low effort prompts, you'll see there, it's like the mystery meat. And really, what you get back from AI prompting should not surprise you. Our goal with this presentation is that, if nothing else, that you get less surprises back when you're using your AI tools. Our goal is that with better prompting, it becomes less mystery meat and more of those intentional 5-course, beautiful chef kiss meals back from your AI prompting because it should never be a surprise. Yes, we know sometimes with image generation that can be fun, but when we're using it for professional tasks like that meeting follow-up, especially if these are repetitive tasks where you're going to want to create a prompt that you're going to use over and over every time you have one of those MTSS meetings, and you want to be able to reuse something very powerful to save you time and be effective and efficient, you don't want a surprise. And so every time, just like a chef, when they get that right recipe, they're not changing it up. Maybe a slight tweak when that meeting has different things on the agenda, but other than those slight tweaks, they want a consistent product leaving their kitchen every time. It should be the same thing with your AI prompting. And so, with that human-centered prompting, though, we want to make sure that the context we give is clear because giving it that heart, us, using us at the center, is really how we give it that secret sauce. We are the context, we are the intention. And that's really what makes the difference between that what's inside the box, the prompt on the left, tell me the themes in this survey data. It's a surprise what we might get back from that. Wilted ingredients produce a forgettable meal, no matter, how good that tool is. We can pay for Gemini Pro. We can pay for ChatGPT. It doesn't matter if we're using Pro, Premium, a paid version. If my prompt is, tell me the themes in the survey data, doesn't matter. But a better prompt with rich context, intent, very clear audience in my prompt, I'm going to get much better and more consistent results every time. Okay. And so you can see that in that prompt. And so here's an example from the chef's kitchen there. Give you a second to read a little bit of that. This is an example where the AI is acting as a data analyst, open-ended survey questions for a survey that use all the time and use it over and over. So it's a nice long prompt. Consistency. So we have the prompt exactly how we want it. It addresses the context, the purpose, the goal, the role, the audience, and the output structure. And we even give you the bonus tip there of if you're not sure how you want to write your prompt, it's okay to ask AI to do that too. Get help telling AI to brainstorm the prompt with you. You want a prompt to do X, Y, and Z, and then refine that prompt until you're sure it's going to give you the result. And then you copy your prompt and put it in to get it to do what you want. But save your recipes. All right. And so when you find that perfect recipe, you end up being able to find the perfect plating and elevate even your technique with specific prompting styles being your input. And that becomes really your technique, your cooking technique. And then your final dish, what you do with that output. We have this example, that last prompt that Adam showed it was prompting based on a survey analysis and asking it to analyze those open-ended survey results. And not only did it prompt AI to analyze the results, but it asked it to give an output structured to identify top 3 strengths, weaknesses, format the output in a very specific way, and be able to use it over and over, making sure that the design is accessible. And you see there then that you're able to have an output that is ready to go for your stakeholders, your consumers, the people that come eat at your restaurant all the time, your users. Next slide.
So, sticking with our theme, we're gonna talk about little kitchen safety now, because we have just really spent some time telling you all the things that you should be putting in your prompts and all of the context that you should be giving AI. There's still some things that we need to keep in mind to avoid some mistakes, to avoid the kitchen fire. We want to avoid using spoiled ingredients. In a professional kitchen, one bad ingredient can ruin the whole dish. So AI models can inherently amplify existing bias that's present in the data that we give it. So we have to make sure that we are staying in touch with not only the data we're feeding it, so we understand what's going in, but if something comes out and you're like, wow, I didn't think about that, you need to double check and go back and just make sure that what it is telling you actually exists in the data. It's a very important human side of this, that we need to keep the humans engaged in the things that we're making. So, um, uh, in this kind of idea, we need to make sure that we're being the master chef here. So we've got a short order draft, the short order cook of write a guide for Google Classroom. When the master chef says, again, giving all of those things that we said, act as a tech specialist, create a quick start guide. So we're telling you exactly what we're looking for middle school teachers, focusing on setting up topics and assignments. Make sure that the tone is encouraging, because we know that this could be tough for those teachers to take on and start doing. We need to make sure that we're checking our flavor profile, that we have diversity in the voices that we're getting, and we're asking ourselves the same way we would at any data report that we're getting back. What voices are missing? Who should be in this report that we're not seeing? That we never upload dirty data, that we're stripping out, especially when it comes to student ID numbers, student names, personal data, anything that could be used to identify people. We need to make sure that we're not, AI loves jargon, but we need to make sure that what we're getting out isn't just so jargon heavy that it becomes hard to understand. When I work with high ability teachers, there are lots of acronyms in that world, like COGAT, that we use, that we forget that the regular world might not understand that that's a cognitive abilities test. We just shorten it to COGAT. And so you have to be careful that what you're getting out of AI isn't so filled with jargon that it becomes nonsensical to people that are trying to read it. And then you have to remember that you are the head chef, that this is your little sous chef that's giving you exactly what you ask of it. So we have to make sure that we keep that human element involved, so that what we're getting out is what we're asking it to do. Again, that human taste test, one of the most influential things that you can do is think about presenting what you have gotten from AI, and think about, does it sound like me? Does this sound like something that I would say? If not, you can feed it some of the things that you have written so that it starts to understand a little bit what you sound like, or you can give it ways to soften, or maybe speak a little less formally, sound less AI in its responses. You need to double check your data, make sure that it's not a hallucination. Hallucinations are when AI makes up data, which does happen sometimes. So you have to make sure that what you are getting is an actual thing. And then, is it biased? We really do have to keep that human side of things checking to see if is any of the data that we're giving it, is it focusing too much on one section, one group of people, and make sure that you're getting a nice even report back out again. Looking at our slide, a bad output doesn't sound like me. So the prompt up here that says, write an email to teachers about our new coaching program. And then I'm going to give you a second to read what is in kind of italics right here. One of the things that AI can do pretty easily is sound very markety. It really does it wants to sound, I feel like, very upbeat and happy and we're here to change the world. And that can really come off as trying to sell something. And we know that in the ESU world, and we're here to support our districts, not sell our district things. And that's one of the things that I've had to refine my messages the most are make this sound less like a marketing opportunity and more like me trying to go out and support my school districts. So a revised prompt here, write an email to teachers about a new coaching program. Keep the tone warm, supportive, and grounded. Avoid marketing language. Sound like a colleague, not a salesperson. So you see what we get out of here sounds a lot more like a human being, number one, but just has less of that, don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity. While that may sound fine, like in person, you trying to convince someone to do something, that just sounds like marketing here. Yeah, so this one sounds human, approachable, authentic, and sticks with our collaborative nature here at ESU3. Another hallucination check here. So our output here contains false data. So we asked it to summarize the key findings from our 2025 staff survey. And it gave out that there were 347 responses, and the top concern was salary, mentioned all these times. If you didn't provide the actual survey data, the AI made up these numbers. That is called a hallucination. It's very plausible sounding, but completely fabricated. Here's the other thing. AI is very good at covering its tracks on hallucinations. It sounds really convincing when it hallucinates. So you just have to know what you're putting in so that you know if what you're getting out is the real deal. So a much better approach. We're going to upload the actual anonymous survey data and then tell it to identify the top three themes, and the three themes were actually these things. Note the percentages cannot be calculated without noting the total response. So we know how many responses went in, and we can work on that side of things. So AI is working from real data and acknowledges its limitations rather than inventing the statistics, which is what we want.
Something important in that prompt, which you all like, if you're working with data and having AI do any sort of analysis for you, that last line of that prompt is something to throw in your back pocket. Do not infer statistics. Only report what is explicitly in the data. File that one away, copy paste. Every time that you're using data, if you're going to use AI as a tool for yourself to work with data, throw that one in there just as one more tool to help ground that output in reality for yourself.
So another bias check, human taste test is the bias check. So this bad output contains demographic assumptions. So we asked it to write a welcome message for new teachers joining our district. And here it writes, you're probably fresh out of college. Well, not every new teacher joining our district is fresh out of college. Some of them are like 30-year-old, veterans of the profession. As young professionals, right off the bat, we didn't check that bias. And so we're sending out an email that puts many of the people receiving it maybe just on the wrong kind of on the wrong foot with this should be very welcoming email. So what's wrong? This assumes that all new teachers are young, recent college graduates in their first year on the job, planning to have children. Well, many teachers are career changers. We know that they're experienced educators, just new to the area, and they don't fit these stereotypes. So a revised prompt going in, write a welcome message for new teachers. Do not assume age. We tell it right off the bat. Do not assume career or family status. Focus on what ESU3 offers to support all new staff, regardless of background. And so out of it, we get welcome to the new teaching for a new region. We're glad you're here. Our team offers support tailored to meet you in your career, wherever that is. So this is a very inclusive message, doesn't make assumptions, and really keeps that bias out of our messages. So how do you have how do we do this the right way? More careful on your guardrails equals a better output. So we're asking you to really be thoughtful about what goes in your prompts, especially in those beginning we gave you, that whole create idea, and then thinking specifically about what you're putting in. Good prompts should include explicit constraints that prevent these problems. Sound like a colleague, not a salesperson. That's a huge one that I put in a lot of my prompts. We don't want to sound like a salesperson. Don't infer statistics, only report what is explicit in the data. Christine was talking to me about how she has to tell it not to do things that are included in other chats, how it will pull previous conversations into what she's working on it with. And we really need to make sure that we're only looking at the information that we're talking about. And then for bias, don't assume age, career stage, or family status. If you're working with like teachers where there's going to be a wide range of those things, then putting that just in your prompt is always a good idea. So the top 5 points: assign a persona, provide the why, set constraints, iterate, don't restart. So don't just start a new chat every time. If you get something that you don't like, just iterate in that chat. Get it to back in the rails. And then feed it examples. The more examples you give it, the better it does, the better job it does in understanding you and what you're looking for.
And so we talked a little bit about this. We touched on a couple of these points already, but as you use AI in your work, you're going to also want to make sure that you're ensuring transparency with our stakeholders. They have a right to know how we have arrived at our conclusions, how, especially if you're working with data or you're creating reports or products for them in the services you're providing. If it's something that you're creating, we want to make sure that we're sharing that with them and how you've arrived at those conclusions and created that report. And so one way, black market AI usage would be, the chef's doing everything. We're letting it do it all behind closed doors, but we don't really want to cook that way. We want to really invite our stakeholders to the chef's table. We want to show our recipes and list our ingredients and really be transparent about the tools we're using to create these dishes. And so a better way, if you're working with data or creating images, graphics, we want to make sure we're citing it as one of our tools. And so here's an example of one way you can do that. To synthesize thousands of open-ended survey responses, we utilized Gemini to identify initial themes. Our ESU3 team then reviewed, validated, and refined these findings to ensure accuracy and a human-centered context. And this would just be in my email of the report that I created from that to the district itself as I share that report to them. And then how they use that report is up to the district. And then, of course, in that top right corner, Adam has mentioned this already, but protecting student privacy and our district privacy as well. We all have an absolute duty to protect our student privacy and that data privacy. Our one non-negotiable best practice is data anonymity. And so before any data is uploaded to AI, all the PII, that personally identifiable information, must be removed. And so we only analyze anonymous data. And so some of the data we remove, and that is by human intervention. And so that means I'm removing it before I upload to AI, which with it, a lot of it living in Gemini, it's hard because it's already living in Google. The names, roles if necessary, ID numbers, specific school names, unless that is the context the district is requesting. If any context makes an individual identifiable, we're removing it. Any unique educator comments that could be traced back to an individual, we're removing that from the data set itself. And then, of course, any subgroup set that is has an N size of less than 10, we're removing those as well, or masking that data as well, to make sure that we're just protecting that student data privacy and, of course, our district data as well. And so, really, there's no need to order takeout. And we want to make sure that we're transitioning from just talking to a computer and making it a tool that we're collaborating with to really create something new. And so we have two scenarios here, drafting professional emails and refining existing content. So you have some sort of written content already created and you want to use AI to refine it. And so we have three different prompts of varying quality on both sides of that scenario, and give you a second to think about why each of them works or doesn't work. And we've given you a little hint there on the right-hand side. We're going to look at scenario one first, the drafting professional emails. Why does the prompt work or not work? For bad.
Now there's only three other people on this call. And
Yeah,
so whether you wanted to,
I'm pausing for the dramatic effect for the people who might watch this later too. So I don't put anyone who's on with us right now on the spot. If they'd like to chime in, the people that are in live with us, you're welcome to chime in on the chat. So
hold on, we've
the
got someone in
band,
the chat. Eileen said,
yeah,
number one, not specific enough.
absolutely. Okay.
What
And
about
then go
what
ahead.
about the ugly one?
Yeah, what about the ugly one?
Again, if you look closely at the prompt, it should give you some clues about
Hmm. Hmm.
a toddler. My toddler could read. Eileen
And
said my
then,
toddler can't read. And I think that really that gets to it. We're asking a
yeah.
2,000 word technical white paper on a 100 word poem that a toddler could read,
Hmm.
but keep
Yeah.
all the data.
And
Uh,
then and then down to the good prompt, the good one.
and again,
Why it works.
as you read that, when I read that good one, all of those things make a lot of sense because it is being overtly specific about what you are looking for. I think about AI as someone who can do what I'm asking, but I have to talk to it like I would a toddler, to kind of go with our toddler theme. It will
Hmm.
do exactly what you say, whether you say a lot or a little, that's what it's going to give you back. So if you are very, very precise with your language and what you're looking for, that's what you're going to get back out. And that really becomes when AI can become powerful.
Hmm. Why don't you go to the next slide for us? And so absolutely spot on with that first one. Fix is such a subjective word. What was it that needed fixing? And whatever we get back is going to be a surprise for us. Kind of like that mystery meat idea. The results are going to be generic, possibly unhelpful edits, ones that we may have expected, maybe not. And then for the ugly, really that hint of feasibility, unrealistic constraints, conflicting goals. There's data, but also a toddler level brevity. Ooh. And then for the good, like Adam said, clear format. We say bullet points, sets a constraint, shortened by 20%, 1,000 words, 200 words. Like you give it a clear constraint. If you need it to fit in a sidebar in a report, if you need it to be a 2 paragraph email, say that. It will do it. Um, Identifies the target audience. It does. A lay audience, lay lay people, non-educators, or educators or administrators, primary school administrators, special educators. Whatever your audience is, say it clearly. All right. Let's take a look at the right-hand side. Now, this is for refining existing content. You have written this piece already, or you need it to do something to help you. And so let's look at that bad.
Write an email about the project delay.
What
What
could be
project?
wrong
How long
with
is it
that?
delayed by? Am I the boss?
Ooh,
So Eileen, thank you
yeah.
for doing some heavy lifting here, Eileen. Need to know
Yeah.
why it was delayed. What do you want to do about it? Are we
Who's the
saying,
audience?
right,
Hmm.
who's this going to?
Okay.
For the ugly, tell the client the project is late. All right, so we're telling the client, all right, the project is late, but make it sound like it's not our fault and don't offer a refund, even if they ask. Ugh.
Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah, Eileen says, going to make the client go away.
yeah. Okay.
And then the
And
good, draft a formal email to the district explaining that the Alpha project launch is moving from Friday to Tuesday. Offer a final QA check, apologize for the shift in emphasis and commitment to quality. And so if we click on why it works or it doesn't,
oh,
you can see that the bad was vague and requires multiple follow-ups, no mention of the why. The ugly encourages a defensive, unprofessional tone, lacks a constructive
hmm.
path forward. But the good defines a who, what, and why, sets a professional, proactive tone, and includes
Yeah,
specific details, dates, and names.
absolutely. Really, that specificity, again, coming back to it, formal email.
Because
Absolutely.
if you write the bad as your prompt, it's going to give you something, but that something isn't going to be what you want. And so you're going to have to go back and add in all those things anyway. It's
Hmm.
so much easier to front load that and give it that information first and then
Yeah,
clean up a little bit later.
yeah, for sure. No one is doing the ugly because there's a big difference between the bad and the bad and the ugly. But I think between bad and good, between bad and good is going to save you a lot of time. And even though it looks like, wow, that's a lot of work to write that long of a prompt, that's a lot of thinking to come up with all that information right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, as you're thinking through that, is going to save you time on those repeats, those go backs. And so that's what Adam and I are encouraging. The better prompting is going to get you better output right off the bat. And when you have the better prompt, every time you write a better prompt, it becomes easier the next time. And then the next time you have a task that you think might be easiest or most efficient if you use your partner, you use your sous chef, your collaborative partner AI, it'll be much easier to do every single time you practice better prompting. Okay.
So let's go to I really like this because this is the height of specificity. We are saying we're going to make a one pager. And this is something that I feel like a lot of departments have to do. We need to create these one pagers to give out to the people that we're working with. So, and we end up using Canva a ton anyway. So here's an example of giving a prompt that is ready for the tool we're going to be using anyway. So don't just ask for a summarize, ask it to write for design. Identify the top 4 themes. For each theme, write up a headline, an under 5-word summary bullet point, in under 15 words. This must fit into a sidebar layout. Christy, maybe talk a little bit, because you live in these waters quite often. Maybe talk a little bit about how you use this in your day-to-day.
Yeah. That part of a prompt is definitely prompting it to give me exactly what I need to create that design on the right-hand side. I need a headline, and under that headline, I'm going to want a bullet pointed list, and each bullet point should only be 15 words or less, and it has to fit into a sidebar. It's not going to give me paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. I'm prompting it to give me the design elements that I'm seeking to create my reports. And knowing that I'm looking for Canva ready. If you're going to use Canva, put that in your, this has to be, I'm creating a Canva report, put that in the prompt. Same thing with the sentiment mining. Use AI to find the heart of your data. If you're reviewing lots and lots of open-ended comments, maybe this becomes part of your prompt. Review these 50 comments and extract the 3 quotes that best capture the emotional impact of the coaching program on teacher confidence. If you don't like what it pulls out, if you don't think that matches what you saw in the room or matches what the story of all the other data that you've pulled, that's fine. Go back to the data, look through it yourself. But maybe that's the starting point for you. Maybe that's what you need to start telling your data story or creating your story in your design. Let it do the sentiment mining of your data for you to help, especially if you're trying to create a report or a one pager to help tell your department's data stories. AI is great for sentiment mining. And in our last couple minutes, we're going to give you a couple tools here. In that same idea of using AI for design, you can use AI for different analysis of data. But we want to caution you that if you're prompting for analysis, you want to make sure that your prompt matches the method of data analysis that you want it to do. So this is a methodology match. If you want to know what new programs are needed, your methodology is a need assessment, and you want your prompt to match that. You want to prompt it to do a need assessment. If you want, did we achieve our objectives? Your methodology that you're prompting for is an outcome evaluation. You want your prompt to match that. And so this table here that Adam is showing is a prompting tasting menu for a methodology match. So make sure you hold on to this one, and we'll drop a copy of this in the folder that we've shared in our resources. But this is just meant to be a tool for you, and it's based on return on investment planning toolkit from Hanover Research, but great for prompting for data analysis. And last but not least, we have an AI prompting cheat sheet that goes back over that CREATE framework with some department examples.
It also has some just some really good tips, formatting, the critique loop, multi-step brainstorming. All of these things are things that you can do to really get the most out of prompting. I would also say one thing we didn't talk a lot about in here But if you've got a project that you're not sure how to start the prompt on, prompt the AI on how to prompt it. It the chatbots love to tell you how to ask for its own kind of well-being. And so if you say, help me ask you, and then kind of explain what you're looking for, it will spit out a framework that looks probably a lot like what we have for you to fill in the details. And so don't be afraid just to ask it how it works best in doing that, and it will give you lots of great answers.
Hmm. Yeah. For example, the first example there, write a guide for Google Classroom. If that's your output goal, if you prompted, what would be the best prompt to help me create a guide for Google Classroom, and you put that in, it would spit out an amazing prompt that you might not have generated, and you fill in the blanks with your information, and then you prompt it for that. Chef's kiss prompt right there.
Awesome. Well, I think we're like a minute over, but I'm happy that we got to this point, and we got both of our attendees here, and I'm sure lots of people watching the webinar.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. I do want to say one thing that you gave me as an idea is having the AI help me make the AI prompt. And so
Mm.
we did a previous webinar on Gemini gems. And so I asked AI, create the instructions for a Gemini gem that will act as my prompt creator and use that create framework. And so now I have a Gemini gem that every time I want to get a good idea for a prompt, I have that gem created for me. So I love that idea that you gave. That's going to be something that I use. Chef's kiss to both of you. That was a wonderful.
Oh, yay.
Well, thanks
Yeah,
everybody for
good.
joining, and Christine and Adam for your hard work on all of this, the resources, and we will put the recording up on ESU3 TV. And if anybody has a quick question, go ahead and take yourself off mute or ask it in the chat. Amy, did you have a question?
I do actually. I was a minute late getting on, or a few minutes. Sorry about that. But I heard that you can maybe upload some documents and it will learn. Is is that true? Did you hit that and I missed it? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. What platform do you like to use, Amy?
I'm trying to use the Gemini,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not getting me, and I'm understanding why now. It's not getting me what I need. But I tried having like uploading stuff into it so it would learn my role and help me with that.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't. Like I couldn't get it to do it. So I know I'm doing it wrong, most likely. But so then I go to Chat GTP because I think I explained it better, and it
Some
usually I go back and forth honestly between the
Sure.
two.
Sometimes if you feed it a bunch of your things, it can try to take the things that you're giving it in the context that you're asking for. So like you may give it a bunch of your emails and then ask for like a training that sounds like you, but it's going to take those things from your emails and try to put them in the training. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
you have to be careful because what you're giving it, it wants to include in the thing that you're asking it to do rather than the sound more like me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Now, what Eileen did mention, the gem, that would be one way if you wanted it to just have like the knowledge that you have and be able to apply like your knowledge of certain things. That is what you're talking about in terms of like you're able to create a gem around certain things, and you're able to add those documents in there, and then you would go there and prompt it to do exactly what like we were talking about,
So
write emails.
let me give you an example of that. we took all the strategic plans for our districts and put them into one gem. And now when we ask that gem questions, the only place it looks is the strategic plans. So
Okay.
we couldn't ask it about the capital of Egypt,
Nebraska.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's not in the strategic plans where it's basing
Okay.
all of its information from.
Oh, sorry. Forget to put
Yeah, you're
this
okay.
down all the
We
time.
heard you the whole time.
Okay. Okay. I think
But
I'd put a gem in with the website that has all my information on it. And then just trying to ask different questions. Okay, this makes sense. I got it.
like
Understand now.
so Amy, one of the things I do though, when I am like working on different reports, I have a template document though that has like like the ESU3 style guide kind of idea. I
Yeah.
keep a template document in my drive. Because Gemini is so interwoven with Google and you can link to Drive documents so
Mm-hmm.
easily in chats. I just keep my documents and my templates right there so that when I need something that is like me or has like my colors or has a certain format or output or has the thing I need, I keep all my templates that I need to bring into my chats in Google so that it's not a gem per se, but it is like where it's specific knowledge of the information or the template or a format that I want it to mimic. And I'm able to go grab those if they're repetitive tasks or things that I want it to do, very specific formats, things that I'm going to want to be repeating over and over. That's another way to use Gemini. Kind of the same, but not so in depth as a gem. But
Okay.
I like Gemini and the integration with Google.
Perfect. Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
yeah. Thanks for coming, Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
for
Sorry,
staying
I
the
was
whole
a
time.
little late. So,
No,
No,
No
no problem. And
worries.
great
All right.
question at the end there. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hey,
you.
have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you, Adam and Christine, so much.
Yep.
Okay.
Bye.